Welcome to the Purpose for Life podcast. This is Suzanne Roberts, author of It's Deeper Than That. I just want to say that today's the first day we're using the Alien Wall at the Alien Wave studio where I do the podcast, and I'm really excited for that. My guest today is Molly Jones. I'm so excited to have Molly Jones here. Molly Jones is an architect. Yes, Molly Jones is and has an architecture firm, Jones Design. What I'm really interested in talking about with Molly is her upcoming book called Shift. I've gotten to see the cover of it and I've gotten to read parts of it. You all are in for a treasure beyond what you can even imagine. So thank you for being here, Molly.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Suzanne. It's definitely my pleasure to be here. And, I adore talking to you about these topics. So, yes, I do have an architecture firm that's kind of my quote unquote day job, but this is really where my passion lies. So, thank you so much for having me.
So, Molly, take us on a journey with you, how you've evolved into this book shift, and anything you'd like to share about yourself to help us catch up to where you are now.
Sure. So how Shift really came about was out of a desire that actually had been brewing for about the last year to year and a half, but really like the fire and the heat got turned up under it in the last 4 to 6 months. And I have been on a 3 decade long journey of meditation and being spiritually adventurous. That really has led me to today, actually. And so, what really happened is actually when I first met you, Suzanne, in Palm Desert, was when during that week that we were together, it was like my guides were saying, my board, which is going to be part of the book, was saying, "You're going to write a book. It's called Shift. Don't worry about anything else right now. Just know you're going to write this book." And I was like, okay. so
Mm,
I knew it was about spirituality. There's a lot of my own story in it. I did spend most of my life very devout in Christianity, and over the course of the last 3 decades shifted from Christianity to devout, or not really devout, but into Buddhism. So I talk a lot about my decade in Buddhism and some of the things that I find most precious to me, the teachings that the Buddhists have that really carried with me and have influenced me and continue to do that even today. And then how I became much more spiritually adventurous, and how that really results in this really amazing, even to me, because the work in the book is channeled. It's not me. I just happen to be the one putting the words on the
mm,
pages. And so what's so beautiful about it is how all these influences from my own history are coming together and being infused together in a way that hopefully will help people find their own path to their own awakening, or in the case of Shift, it's a re-remembering of who we really are, and be able to do it a lot faster than I was. So yeah, so that's really, in a nutshell, that's kind of how we got to today. So
I
yeah.
appreciate that. When I met you, I don't think you had been told about the book Shift yet. Or
Mm-mm.
maybe you had, but you had said something along the lines of, I want to help people save time going through different states of consciousness, that
Yes.
making it easier for them to evolve in their consciousness. So, can you talk a little bit what evolving in their consciousness or remembering what that means to you?
If I have to sum it up in 1 or 2 sentences, what re-remembering is understanding that we are love, period. And that we are also one with everything else in our world, in the three-dimensional world, and also in the universe and the multiverse, even. So just understanding that there really is no separation We create a three-dimensional world that we live in here on this earth plane, and I love the alien wall behind you because that's how we maneuver in this version of reality, but that is not all of what's happening around us. It's actually a tiny fraction of what's actually going on around us. So
And maybe inside of us,
absolutely
right?
inside of
Is
us.
right.
We are spiritual beings having a human existence. Absolutely. Yeah.
So interesting you said that. That's actually, I was doing my audiobook today and I read that in my
I
audiobook and who it came from, and I can't remember their name, but right now, but it's interesting that you just said that. Would you talk a little bit as an author channeling a book? What's that like and what does that mean? And what's your process with that?
That's a very interesting question because this is actually the second book. So the first book that I wrote was I got to the point of having a pretty fully complete initial draft of that book. That book has a working title of Build Beautifully. It's a technical book about the practice of architecture and design and construction. And so it is a technically based book. I can tell you that that book, which is not being published currently, I may publish it in the future. I don't know. I'll do, pretty much what I'm nudged to do when I'm nudged to do it. But that book is not channeled, right? And so I can compare
Mhm.
this process very saliently to the process of putting that first book together. And so the channeled book, like I know how to put a book together. I learned that through Build Beautifully. On this book, I really am just showing up in a meditative state when I feel the nudge to do it, and literally the words pour onto the page. So I just get out of the way. That's what I really
Okay.
do. Yeah. So there is a flow that I think the way to that I explain it, at least to most people, is when you're in the zone, like you're so focused on what you're doing that almost nothing else exists and there's no time, like hours can go by and you're like, wow, how did I, how was I doing this for 4 or 6 hours? That you are in that state. That's what's happening.
Interesting. Well, you're bringing up something that's actually in your book and something that I think people have a really difficult time with, which is stillness. What is it inside of you that has made you willing to cultivate stillness within you?
It was necessary for my survival, is how I will start with that. I had gone through a really difficult period of my life where I had come out of the closet. Well, actually, I was outed by my sister. I ended up being disowned by my father. The rest of my family followed suit. Thank God I was older. I was in my, early to mid 20s, and I had a really strong friend group. And I really just got to the point where even with that support of that friend group, the voices in my head were so loud and yelling at me so constantly that I couldn't even sit still anymore. I was so depressed that I couldn't even sit still. So I literally started to dig a garden in the backyard, and this is part of what's in Shift. And I dug and dug and dug. And at first I was digging because I was also very suicidal at the time. So I was digging my grave. I was digging the grave of the people who had hurt me. I was digging and digging and
Mm,
digging. And then I began to understand that like this physical process of digging the hole and planting the garden and tending to it started to become an opening for me where stillness could come in because I wasn't doing anything else at the time. I was completely and totally focused on whatever task it was that I was doing with this tiny little garden. And it was tiny. It started out maybe 4 feet by 4 feet. So
mhm,
it quickly got a lot bigger. But that started to give me a little bit of space in my head from the voices where I could start to
mm,
entertain other opportunities and hear the other opportunities that were knocking at my door. One of which was the opportunity to learn to meditate, right? That was its own challenge at first that we can talk about here and during our time together a little later. But what ended up happening is as I learned to meditate and got really brave about meditation, because there is a point where you need to be brave about it, that stillness really began to become my refuge,
Hmm.
right? From everything that was going on around me and in me. And it is the foundational practice in this book. It is also the foundational practice in Buddhism and any kind of meditation. So in Buddhism, they talk about shamatha meditation, which is a calm abiding meditation where we learn to allow the mind to settle. And out of that settled state and that stillness, insight can arise, right? But we have to get still in order to hear the voice of our own intuition, hear the voice of our guides, hear the voice of our own insight as it begins to speak to us. And then we start to recognize it for what it is, and we can hear it a lot more clearly, even when we're in a post meditation state. So it's absolutely the foundation of everything.
Molly, I really appreciate listeners listening to what Molly's saying. It takes bravery and
It
it's worth
does.
it. And I really appreciate you saying that instead of making it woo wooey, like, oh, I don't mean woo wooey in a weird way, but like, oh, let's meditate. It's so easy. Like, no, it does. It takes courage and it's worth it. So thank you, Molly, for saying that. I really appreciate it. I'm
Yeah.
curious how to link this kind of stillness with love, which you talk about, and also what you had to do inside of yourself to become receptive to this love.
That's been quite a journey. So, but and before I answer that question, there is a chapter in the book that's actually chapter 2 that talks about what to do when the proverbial poo hits the fan, so to speak, right? Because it absolutely will.
Yes.
When you meet the craziness going on in your mind for the first time and you're trying to get still, yes, it will, yeah, you will hit a wall. And so it's like, okay, let's give people the manual on what to do when you hit the
Yes.
wall. So
And it's
uh,
worth it to go through the wall, right?
absolutely. I would not have changed taking that wall down brick by brick for anything in the world.
Thank you
Wouldn't
for
change
saying
it.
that. Great.
Yeah. So, but it is a process. So, yeah. So, how do we get from this place of like starting to maybe even consider maybe that stillness might be something I might want to do, to understanding that we are love, right? And that really, I talked about insight meditation arising out of that calm abiding meditation. And what ends up happening is we end up having dominion over our own mind. We can control our emotions. We can control our mind. We can consider, do I want to think this thought or do I not want to think this thought? We are no longer captive to our brains. And so we develop sovereignty. And my experience has been that after I have developed sovereignty over my own mind, I may still choose to cling on to a thought, or cling on to an emotion that many other people would put in the negative category, right? So I can still choose that, but I know that I have agency over what I do,
Mhm.
right? So the sovereignty then evolves into this idea of beingness, which is really understanding who we are at our core as spiritual beings, right? So
Yes.
this is when we begin to really understand that not only do I have sovereignty over my mind, but I now can have deliberate intention over what I'm thinking and speaking and how I'm acting, right?
Hmm.
And this is really giving us the groundwork on which what I call the alchemy of purpose can arise, which is literally taking the alchemy, the 7 steps of alchemy, and applying it to a spiritual process that results in us understanding or beginning to understand that we are love. Right? We're not even practicing unconditional love. We are love, right? So even, and this is kind of what, at the end of our time in Palm Desert, I went to Palm Springs and went up to I think it's called the San Joaquinto Mountain,
Hmm.
and did a meditation up there that has profoundly changed my life forever. And it was the first invitation to understand what love really is from my board of directors. And it goes beyond unconditional love. Unconditional love can be how it's expressed, but we are being asked to remember that we are love, right? So it kind of feels like we're becoming love, but the truth is we're remembering that we
Mhm.
already are love. Yeah.
That sounds really powerful to have had that experience. I'm really grateful. And
Me
it
too.
also sounds like I think, tell me if I'm understanding this, like you've had to go through a lot of preparation inside yourself to become ready for this, and that's what you're working on saving time with for other people, that you're giving
Yes.
them a way to have direct access to this love,
Yes.
indescribable by the mind,
Yes.
knowable but not cognitive, right? So,
Yes. Yes.
and I really appreciate that. Would you say, just for listeners that might not be used to hearing something like board of directors, what that, I mean, like, I don't want them to think you have this hour board of directors that you meet with monthly,
Yeah.
so would you please explain that to our listeners?
Each of us, whether we've met them or not, we all have a number of spirit guides, and that number is actually really infinite. This is what I refer to as the board of directors. So I came out of corporate, and so it was like, okay, so I have a board. This is great. I love having a board. And then I have some folks, or I say folks, but I have some guides that are on the board that I really call my executive committee. So, and there's a handful of them that are kind of like the ones that are much more frequently engaged with me. But the board of directors is really unseen. They are your intuition, they are your higher self, they are archangels, they are spirit guides, whatever name you want to put on them, angels, departed loved ones that are no longer in our third dimensional reality. So it constitutes all of them, frankly. So yeah, so when I talk about the board,
Yeah.
that's who I'm talking about.
Right. I knew that, but I wanted to
Yes.
make sure that our listeners knew that, weren't thinking that monthly you meet with this board.
Yeah. Yes,
And so thank
absolutely.
you for sharing that.
Of
I, I
course.
I'm wondering if you would be willing to uh, do a meditation with us here today and guide us so that our listeners have a way to engage with you.
Yeah, I would be happy to do that. And shift will have each of the four parts in shift: stillness, sovereignty is part two, beingness is part three, and then the fourth part is remembering. Each of those parts will have meditations that go with that. And
Great.
so,
I love
yeah,
that.
so the one that I'm going to share with you today is one out of the stillness part. So, and this one is called Resting in the Radiance of Stillness. If you're out walking or out and about and listening to this, you may find a comfortable place where you can take a seat for a few minutes and participate in this, or bookmark it and come back to it later when you're in a position where you can do that. So we're going to find a comfortable seat. We're going to keep our spine gently tall, right? Alert and yet relaxed. Gonna let your hands just rest naturally in your lap or on your knees, whatever is comfortable for you. And close your eyes. We're going to take 3 deep cleansing breaths together. Inhaling through the nose and then exhaling through the mouth. So inhale, first breath in. Feel it fill your lungs, your abdomen, and then exhale through your mouth, releasing tension. Again, inhale through the nose, and then exhale as you release tension through the mouth. Third breath, inhale, fill your abdomen, and then exhale through the mouth, releasing tension. Excellent. Now, while your eyes are closed, allow your breath to just find its natural rhythm, in through the nose and out through the mouth. Bring your gentle attention to the feeling of your breath at the tip of your nose. simply notice the coolness of the inhale. And now start to exhale through your nose as well, feeling the warmth of your breath as it leaves your body at the tip of your nose. Your only task with this meditation is to rest your awareness on your breath. It's like placing a feather on water, soft, light, with no force. If thoughts or feelings or sensations arise, we notice them with kindness and we gently return back to the breath. We are not trying to stop our thoughts. We are merely training our attention to return again and again to the single point, which is our breath. So just continue to breathe naturally. If you become lost in thought, celebrate that moment. This is your awareness awakening within you, and then kindly guide yourself back to your breath. If you've drifted away from your breath, just gently come back. We're not resisting thoughts. The thoughts will let them come and go just like clouds in the sky. If you are comfortable, you can expand your awareness to include the spaciousness around you. You can include sounds in the room by just noticing sound. If you get carried away with the sound, come back to just sound. You may want to feel the air on your skin and use that as your expanded meditation object, or the sense of simply existing and being. Rest in this still, alert presence. We're going to take one deep breath in. Exhale fully through the mouth. And when you are ready, you can gently open your eyes. Notice how you feel. Grounded, calm, connected. Carry this sense of spaciousness and spacious awareness with you throughout your day, like a quiet flame that lights the way for you. Thank you for letting me share this meditation.
Thank you so much, Molly. I know if you weren't able to take the time right listening to this, please take the time to do this. You will be transformed.
Yeah.
Molly, we're gonna have to begin to wind down pretty soon, not right this minute. But I do want to acknowledge that I understand that you're an architect for the outer world. And I also want to acknowledge that in Shift, you're giving us an architecture framework, building a platform within,
Yes.
how we can actually architect within ourselves to this love that you're talking about. And it's very, very moving. I'm so excited for you, for the book, for your willingness to be still enough to have come through you. What's coming through you is a gift to all of us and to this whole world and beyond. So thank you so, so much, Molly. And one more thing, you're just a living example.
Thank
You
you.
know, you've done it inside you through bravery, through courage, through dedication, because something deeper was calling you
Mm,
and you listened. So
yeah.
thank you.
And that something deeper is in all of us,
Exactly.
calling us to listen. Yeah.
And remember.
And remember who we are. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Molly, I do like to ask my guests, what do you think the purpose for life is?
To remember who we are and to be love. Yes.
And to be love,
Be love.
beyond unconditional love,
Yes. Way beyond that.
way beyond that. Yes. Thank you so much. Will you tell our listeners how they can get a hold of you, when the book might be coming out?
The book, I'm working on the book portal right now. The book will probably be out, and it'll definitely be out in the first half of 2026. The URL, which has not been launched yet, but will be shortly, is Molly, that's MOLLY Jones.com. So, and that will be where you can sign up for advanced information about the book launch and when it's coming out. It will also be the portal where all of the meditations will be available for people, including the one we just went through. So,
Thank you so, so, so much. Uh, Listeners, we've had a great treat here today. And for those of you that would like to access my book portal for It's Deeper Than That, you can now access it on the website. It's going live, even though it's already live next week, but there are a lot of there's tutorials, meditations, journaling prompts you can start to access now. And I'm so excited. Please let us know when we can access yours. I'll make sure it goes out. Probably by the time this goes out, it will be live. So, yeah, thank you.
likely.
And
Thank you.
any parting messages you'd like to leave for our audience here today, Molly?
Yes. So, would you like a poem?
I would love a poem. Let's end with a poem.
Excellent. So shift when we get into the part 3 and part 4, we get very mystical. And one of the things that has been channeled is a series of poetry, as you know, Suzanne. So
Yes.
I'm going to read you this poem called The Blissful Edge of Abyss. So this is included in part 4. So this is very mystical. So, and it goes like this. This life transcended, veil worn thin, dualistic reality without and within, heightened existence caressing my skin. I hear your voice calling me once again. Come, take my hand. I'll show you my love, the source of the unified realm of above and below and without, within all that I am. Love, lay down your armor. I will show you the plan. We'll dance on the blissful edge of abyss, a dirge of awakening sealed with a kiss.
I'll leave you here on this, listeners, and take it in. Thank you once again, Molly, for being here. Thank you for signing off today for the podcast Purpose for Life. I'm your host, Suzanne Roberts, and there's more to come.